The MHA manga ended over 4 months ago, but the final volume of the series includes upwards of 60 extra pages, including a nearly 40-page brand new epilogue chapter. This is a new final chapter for the series. It fills in a lot of blanks, it gives us a ton of new information, and it even confirms some minor ships and some major ships. This new chapter changes everything we thought we knew about the end of MHA, and it changes for the better, so let's break it down. If you guys enjoy my videos, don't forget to leave a like and comment for that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to be the first to know when they inevitably announce an MHA sequel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. But first, a quick thank you to Girls' Frontline 2 Exilium for sponsoring this video. We finally have an official sequel to the mobile game Girls' Frontline, and it's a brand new 3D RPG available on mobile and PC. It features a beautiful non-photorealistic art style based on physically based rendering technology, and what that means is that we get some absolutely beautiful anime waifus rendered in a unique and vibrant art style, and I'm here for it. The game combines turn-based tactics with collection and RPG elements for the perfect blend of thrilling gameplay. You become the commander who leads tactical dolls or T-dolls through contaminated zones while battling enemies and overcoming obstacles during thrilling missions. Use the fully 3D interactive fitting room and dormitory to closely observe the dolls you collected, select different outfits for them, and level them up to unlock cool idle animations that bring the dolls to life outside of just battle. You are the commander, and you make the choices that will change everything. As a busy guy, I love that once you've gotten into the game for a short period of time, you can use 3x speed with auto mode to make your progress quicker, so you don't have to grind mindlessly when there's so much other cool stuff you could be doing in this game. The reservation rewards for the game when it launches include up to 120 free pulls. Meanwhile, Steam is open for reservations, so you can pre-register. Just click the link in the description and you can even win rewards just for following the game on social media, which is super easy. Check it out for yourself. Click the link in the description to download Girls' Frontline 2 Exilium on Google Play and iOS, or pre-order on Steam. Okay, so man, I thought that the final volume of Demon Slayer added a lot to the ending and made it a lot better, but the MHA extra pages add even more, and they definitely also make the ending a lot better than it was originally. In that official final chapter, which came out in early August of 2024, we got to see the world of MHA after a massive 8-year time skip where the hero students had already become adults and they were now working as pro heroes or sidekicks, or in the case of Deku, UA teachers. After losing his quirk, Deku was unable to become a pro hero, especially since the pro hero field became even more competitive in the years during the time skip. With most of the major villains gone and with the hero society reformed and doing better, the need for heroes went down, and so only the very strongest were accepted into the ranks of pro heroes. Without his quirk, there was no way that Deku could make the cut, so he settled down into a job that allows him to still inspire others by bringing up the next generation of heroes through the UA Hero course. Now that being said, even though Deku really does enjoy his job as a UA teacher and he finds it fulfilling, he still felt regret about the fact that he couldn't join his friends and former classmates in their hero activities. Because Deku is working at the UA while his friends are busy doing hero stuff, they haven't been hanging out as much as they'd like to in these past 8 years. And that is the one thing that Deku wishes could have been different. He wishes that he could spend more time with his friends like they did back in their high school days. Deku understands that this is what adulting is all about. Everyone is busy and sometimes your schedules just don't line up. And even if he wishes that things were a bit different, Deku doesn't blame anyone. It is what it is. Everyone has their own jobs and families, and they have other priorities that come before hanging out with old high school buddies. But just as we see all the former Class 1A students living their lives and advancing their careers, and just as we see Deku coming to terms with the fact that he will never be a pro hero, the chapter starts to end, but then doesn't end because All Might breaks through the ending panel and reveals a brand new twist to the story. He was just visiting the USA, and he was working with Melissa Shield on a piece of brand new cutting-edge technology. Using the data collected during All Might's fight with All For One 8 years ago, Melissa and Mei Hatsume were able to use rapidly evolving cutting-edge technology to create another combat suit like the one that All Might used against All For One. All Might says that he needs to get data from Deku as a former user of multiple quirks, and so he is gifting this new high-tech battle suit to him, to Deku. Just like with All Might's old suit, this one comes in the shape of a briefcase, and Deku says that it looks so expensive. But All Might explains that the Class A alumni got together and pitched in their collective funds to finance it, with Bakugo leading the charge. This means that even though they didn't get to spend that much time together during the time skip, Deku's friends haven't forgotten him. On the contrary, they've been working behind the scenes to allow him to become a hero again. All Might says, "Take this to heart, kid. This too is a power you've earned fair and square." And as Deku smiles with tears in his eyes, he takes possession of the battlesuit. Bakugo holds out his hand and says, "Let's go, Deku." The former 1A students are all together again in their hero costumes. Deku is wearing the new advanced battlesuit, and they're all ready to be heroes together. Deku can now be a UA teacher and also do hero stuff together with his friends, which is a little bit sappy, but I think it was the right call for Horikoshi because it gives us a fulfilling and satisfying ending to our boy Deku. And to be fair, Horikoshi did do a good job of establishing that yes, suits like these exist, and yes, technology keeps advancing rapidly, so the fact that this suit can give Deku enough power to be a hero even without a quirk isn't too much of a stretch in this world. Even 8 years earlier, All Might was able to give Prime All for One a run for his money in one of these suits, so this turn of events isn't out of the blue, it has been foreshadowed for some time. One of my biggest complaints about the final chapter, along with the fact that Deku's dad is still missing, is that the Izuocha ship still wasn't officially confirmed, even though it was heavily implied. I thought that the story was really leading us towards a Deku and Ochako relationship. The clues were everywhere, even if some people willingly chose to ignore them. And so I thought that the ending would have been more satisfying if the final chapter confirmed explicitly that Deku and Ochako would in fact get together. Well, I'm not saying that Horikoshi watches this channel and values my opinion or anything, but we need to talk about the new chapter, the epilogue, titled More. The epilogue takes place about a month after the end of chapter 430, so obviously after the time skip, and we see a 24-year-old Ochako dreaming about Toga again. Ochako finds herself in some kind of meadow, and she's confused because she knows that she's supposed to be at work organizing papers, but then the plot thickens as she suddenly sees Toga approaching her and getting right in the thick of it. I mean, she arrives just in the thick of time. I mean, okay, I'll stop, but you know I had to, right? Anyway, as Toga says, "Hey Ochako," Ochako wakes up in her office where she had fallen asleep while doing work. She looks very busy and very tired, and it's clear that this is the kind of dream that she's had many times before. We then jump to the big three. Mirio, Nejire, and Tamaki reunited once again in order to help with Ochako's quirk counseling program. As you'll recall from the last chapter, Ochako is spearheading a special quirk counseling project, one of the most important initiatives in the modern hero society. She visits schools along with other heroes and inspires students to be their best selves and stay on the right path. She also specifically counsels students with quirks that are hard to control or deal with, or that might have a social stigma attached to them, kinda like Toga's. The goal is to prevent children like Toga from slipping through the cracks and becoming villains like Toga unfortunately did. Oh, and by the way, Ochako is currently ranked number 24 in the hero standings, which is impressive for someone whose quirk isn't very offensive in nature. Nejire is looking really good and her long hair is back, and it's definitely the right call. Tamaki's hero costume has a more vicious look now since his mask kind of looks like piranha teeth, and Mirio decided to grow his hair out like a JoJo's character for some reason, but I love Mirio, so I will allow it. Mirio is also confirmed to still be the number 1 ranked pro hero in Japan. Nejire is actually number 7, and Tamaki is still Fat Gum's sidekick, so that means he's not yet in the rankings. Ochako instructs them on how to get the kids that they will be counseling to open up to them, and she explains that communication is the key. Troubled students won't necessarily want to open up to unknown adults right away, so it takes time and patience. But the main thing is to focus on making friends with the students, and then they will be happy to talk to you about everything. Ochako definitely has a massive job on her hands, and she works a lot and is often tired, but it's very clear that this is rewarding to her, and she has the support of Hawks and the Ministry of Education, which helps her out a lot. The kids from the school then freak out when they see the heroes, and Mirio decides to play a game with them where he climbs up the tree and makes the kids try to pick his peaches with their quirks. Personally, I'm with Ochako on this one because when she sees Mirio doing this, she's just like, okay bro, that is pretty weird. But Mirio does succeed in motivating the kids to use their quirks, and he eventually gets zapped by one of the kids' quirks. The kid who got to zap him, he feels great about the fact that he was the one to get Mirio, and all the other kids are proud of him too, so I guess Mirio did succeed in inspiring and motivating the students, even if his methods are unusual, to say the least. When the other heroes ask Ochako whether she gets any me time with all the work she does, she says that her me time is all the time because she gets to be with her friends all the time, she works alongside them often and especially Tsuyu, and she's very happy where she is and with the work that she does. But Tsuyu can sense that this is not the whole story. There is something that Ochako isn't saying to the others, and later that day on the train ride home, Tsuyu and Ochako talk about it. Tsuyu asks Ochako about Toga and whether she is showing up in her dreams again, confirming that these dreams have been a regular thing for Ochako. Ochako says that the dream started up again about a month ago, but she can't remember what exactly happens in those dreams. Ochako thought that there might be something wrong with her and she even went in for a checkup, but the doctors didn't find anything wrong and they told her that she's just too tired and needs more rest. Ochako wonders if Toga is actually trying to tell her something by regularly visiting her in her dreams. She wonders if the fact that Toga gave Ochako her blood in order to save her life might have resulted in a part of Toga still being alive inside of Ochako, kind of like One for All and The Vestiges. Now this is also something that I've been speculating about on the channel ever since it first happened in the manga, because knowing how Toga's quirk worked and how important blood consumption was to it, I wouldn't be too surprised if there really was some small part of Toga still living inside of Ochako and visiting her in her dreams. I know that doesn't make sense scientifically when it comes to donating blood, but this is MHA and a lot of it doesn't have to make sense in terms of science. Tsuyu also senses that these dreams might have a deeper meaning, and she tells Ochako that she has to remember what actually happens in these dreams. We then jump to a completely new scene in which Bakugo is driving his fancy new sports car while Kirishima rides in the passenger seat and Deku rides in the back. For some reason, Bakugo's seats are extra soft to the point that Deku looks like he is about to be suffocated by Fat Gum's butt cheeks. But I don't know, maybe that's just like a new car trend in the world of MHA. A lot of things happen during the time skip. It turns out that even though Bakugo doesn't want to admit it, he actually wanted to show off his new car to Deku, and since Deku managed to finish his UA work earlier, he was able to join them for a cruise. We then learned that Kirishima, aka Red Riot, is currently ranked number 12 in the Pro Hero rankings, and he asks Deku whether he has a good sidekick candidate for him over at the UA. Meanwhile, as we know from the last chapter, Bakugo was ranked at number 4 at one point, but then he dropped down to number 15 after he got into a fight with a reporter. Bakugo also apparently received a ton of sidekick applications, especially after he became famous for his fight against All For One, but they all ended up crying and giving up. Oh, Bakugo, don't ever change, bro. I gotta say that the great explosion murder god Dynamite has lived up to his name, and he continues to be his hilariously insane self, which is both funny and nostalgic, so I like it. Bakugo says that if only one of his sidekick applicants had told him outright that he wanted to surpass him, he would have accepted him right away. But I guess that all of them were being too subservient and respectful to Bakugo, and he just couldn't handle it. Bakugo then asks Deku if he's going to continue teaching at the UA, and Deku says that yes, he will. But at the same time, he will also continue using his new hero armor to collect data on the days that he doesn't have to teach, so he will do both teaching and hero stuff. He's just going to be balancing between the two. Deku says that the armor has been amazing and he's very thankful for it, but he doesn't want to abandon teaching altogether. He loves teaching and sharing his experiences with the younger generation, and he would be doing this even if he still had One For All. Deku smiles broadly as he says that he gets to work doing what he loves, and now he also gets to be a hero sometimes with his friends, and he is so incredibly happy and thankful. As he thanks Bakugo and Kirishima again for helping to fund the armor, Kirishima laughs and says that Bakugo was subtly trying to get Deku to join his hero agency, but Deku clearly rejected him because he doesn't want to stop teaching. Bakugo says that yeah, he gets it, but he does tell Deku that he needs to think more highly of himself, and he says that sometimes Deku doesn't even notice the most obvious things. He also says that giving special treatment to everyone means that no one is really special to you. Deku is confused about what Bakugo really means here, but it's kind of hard for him to think straight as he continues to sink into Fat Gum's butt cheeks, or rather the back seat of Bakugo's car. But yes, Bakugo is trying to give Deku the hint that he needs to freaking ask Ochako out already, so yes, this is foreshadowing. Eventually they arrive at a restaurant where all the other former Class 1A students are eating and drinking and partying. The party is to celebrate that Todoroki just became the number 2 ranked pro hero, right behind Mirio. In the previous chapter, it was implied that Todoroki was well on his way to this position, but here in the epilogue we see that he has already attained it, and the entire former Class 1A is there celebrating and cheering him on. Also, apparently Shoto has become known as the air-conditioned hero Shoto to the public, which is like, what? I know he's not the type of hero to call himself Lord Explosion Murder God, but come on Shoto, at least put some effort into making yourself sound even remotely badass. I would have called myself the Punk Hazard hero, but that's just me. The pro hero rankings of a lot of the former 1A crew are then revealed, with Seto being at 36, Kaminari being at 44, Ida at 13, Momo at 19, Shoji cracking the top 10 and now being at 9. And also we see that he no longer wears his mask all the time, so that means that he is now more confident with his appearance, and that is definitely a good thing. My boy Mineta is at spot 108, and even though he's not too happy about it, Jiro and Mina tell him to chill because that's pretty good for him. Jiro, who has a sharp new hairdo, is at number 30, while Mina is at 28. Koda doesn't have a ranking because he's working as a sidekick at Shoji's agency, and Shinso is also out of the rankings. Meanwhile, Invisible Girl Toru is at 39, while Ojiro is at 32. Sato works at Washu's hero agency as a sidekick, while Aoyama is actually a sidekick at Toru's agency. Tokoyami is in a solid spot at number 17. As the Class A gang chats, they mention that they've been able to get together more often lately because as pro heroes, they just haven't been that busy. The number of villains is decreasing every year, and although they will never disappear completely, the situation is definitely improving. The chapter is then kind enough to fill us in on a whole bunch of other hero rankings. Miruko is at number 6, Genist is at number 5, Kamui Woods is at number 4, and Mount Lady is at number 3, although the paneling isn't exactly clear in this section of the chapter. And man, can I just say that Horikoshi absolutely cooked with that art of Miruko. I mean, come on guys. It is a known fact that I have been in the Mirko Simp recovery program for years, but I'm absolutely back on the wagon and I do not care, just wow boys. The art in this chapter in general is freaking beautiful, but Miruko is on a whole other level. Drop a comment in the chat if you agree. Okay, now to refocus. Washu is at number 8, Gang Orca is at number 21, Ryukyu is at 40, Present Mike is at 45, and Death Arms is no longer retired and he is now at 42. Yoshindo manages to crack the top 20 at the 20th spot. A cyborg looking guy who I think is Juzo Honenuki is at number 14. Itsuka Kendo is at 23. And believe it or not, the one and only Neito Monoma did in fact manage to hit the top 10 at the 10th spot. That is very impressive of Monoma. I don't think that many of us were expecting him to hit top 10. But again, this chapter emphasizes, just like the previous chapter emphasized, that the rankings are no longer just about raw power. Oh, and also Monoma looks like he has level 99 Riz, so I kinda get it. There are a lot of factors that go into determining the hero rankings now, including whether you're a good citizen who contributes to the community, whether you treat others with respect, are you charismatic and liked by the public, and so on. I'm gonna guess that Monoma managed to really shine in some of these other categories, even though he's not the strongest hero by any means. Tetsu is at number 26 and Setsuna is at 22. Meanwhile, the absolute Chad Manga Fukidashi is at number 33. Inasa from Shiketsu is at 16, Seiji is at 41, and Kami doesn't have a ranking. After some chit-chat about the Hero Society becoming safer and other slice-of-life stuff, like Shoto's love of soba and reading the Parasite manga, we get confirmation that Dabi did indeed die, and then we finally get into the good stuff, the ships. It turns out that Kurohiro and Kinoko from Class B are now officially dating, which leads to Sero asking Jiro and Kaminari if they are dating now. It seems that they intentionally put their hero offices right next to each other. And although they don't admit that they're dating, they definitely both say that they like being so close to one another. Now, not to be a conspiracy theorist or anything, but when Sero first asks if they are dating, there is a trace of blushing on Jiro's left cheek and Kaminari's right cheek. And then when Jiro denies it and says, "You got it all wrong," there is a clearly visible drop of sweat falling from her face. She is clearly nervous because she's lying. In my expert opinion as an anime conspiracy theorist, they are lying and they are totally seeing each other behind the scenes. But as he listens to all of these conversations, Deku is reminded of his last fight with Shigaraki, in which Shigi told him to make sure that he does his damn best. And as Deku is wondering whether there is something in his life that is still missing, something about him that still hasn't been discovered, he turns directly towards Ochako. When he sees Ochako smiling, Deku's pupils clearly dilate as he finally begins to realize what is missing in his life. It is that same thing which Kurohiro and Kinoko have, and which Jiro and Kaminari probably have, but they don't want to admit it, a romantic relationship. But this moment doesn't last because the heroes are suddenly called in to help chase a stolen car. The criminal who's driving it has a powerful quirk that is causing a lot of damage, so the pro heroes are needed to defuse the situation as soon as possible. We then get an amazing double page spread with all the former Class A heroes jumping into action, and Deku leading the way as his special armor forms itself all around him in a super cool way. The situation is quickly diffused, and the stolen car, which appears to be a large truck, is forced off the road using a bunch of giant icicles. The culprit claims that his quirk was malfunctioning and that he had a sudden impulse, but thankfully there were no victims and the culprit was successfully apprehended. Kaminari laughs and says that the heroes aren't going to lose their jobs anytime soon, and Tokoyami agrees. After that, everyone seems to call it a night and they head home. As a bunch of the heroes ask Bakugo to show them his car, Deku invites him to come to the UA more often to be a guest teacher. It seems that Aizawa is planning to do a class on good communication and he wants to use Bakugo as an example of what not to do, which is pretty freaking hilarious, honestly. As Deku walks away on his own, he remembers Bakugo's line that giving special treatment to everyone means no one is really special to you. Luckily, as he walks through the streets of the city, Deku happens to spot Ochako, who says goodbye to Tsuyu and then begins to think about, you guessed it, Deku. She thinks about how they sat far away from each other at the restaurant, so they couldn't really talk. It's clear that Ochako wanted to sit closer to Deku and to talk to him, but even though she's disappointed, she says it's okay because at least she got to see him a lot because of work. Since Deku works at a school, they probably run into each other when Ochako does her quirk counseling at the UA. But that's not quite true, it's actually cope. Ochako can't just move on from this, and she thinks back to the emotional conversation that her and Deku had back in chapter 429. During that conversation, Deku said to Ochako, "You are my hero." And as you'll recall, the scene ends with Deku and Ochako embracing each other and holding hands, but then all the other Class 1A students showed up and so there was no official confirmation of an Izu-Ocha ship. It was definitely an emotional moment between the two of them and they are clearly into each other, but no official confirmation of a relationship. A lot of fans felt let down by that, and as the epilogue shows, both Deku and Ochako felt let down by that as well. And so, finally, Ochako admits to herself that she fell in love with Izuku Midoriya and that she really wanted to talk to him tonight. Luckily for her, Deku shows up right then and there and says, "Oh great, you're here," with a big smile on his face. In that moment, Ochako sees Toga again, and she sees her dream, finally remembering what really happened in the dream and what it means. Toga says, "Ochako, it's fine," essentially giving Ochako permission to act on her feelings for Deku. Because of how traumatized Ochako had been by Toga's death, deep in her subconscious she probably felt guilty about loving Deku because Toga loved him too. And since Toga literally gave her life to save Ochako, she didn't want to pursue a relationship because she felt that she was taking something away from Toga because she was no longer there to claim it. As Deku runs up to Ochako, panting, he says that he respects and loves everyone and that everyone is special, but today he realized that he really wanted to talk to Ochako more. Ochako in particular. Not his friends in general, but specifically Ochako. And Deku says it's not just about today. He wants to talk to Ochako more from here on out. He wants to be with her more. He wants a relationship with her that goes beyond the relationship he has with his friends. He wants a romantic relationship. Ochako then remembers the rest of her dream. Toga tells her that she always lived her life exactly the way she wanted to, and Toga's wish for Ochako is to also live her life exactly like she wants to. That means that Toga doesn't want Ochako to stay away from Deku just because Toga wanted him and then she died saving Ochako's life. Instead, Toga wants Ochako to go for it, and she even gives her a push forward right into Deku's arms. As I said, this scene is now taking place a month after the end of chapter 430, and both Deku and Ochako realize at the same time that they are both thinking the same thing. They both want to see each other more. They both want more from their relationship. They want more than friendship. And as they both blush and smile and clasp each other's hand, the epilogue comes to an end. This was so friggin' heartwarming and so much more satisfying than the original final chapter. Honestly, this epilogue is a huge success in my opinion, and kudos to Horikoshi for pulling it off. The art was absolutely beautiful. We got to check in with a whole bunch of characters we love, and we got to see their lives to a more satisfying degree. We got to see Deku living his dream of being both a hero and a UA teacher, which completely debunked the stupid memes of him just being a lonely loser who works at McDonald's or whatever. And finally, we got to see Deku and Ochako getting together in a romantic relationship after beating around the bush for like 9 freaking years. Other than the fact that we still don't know anything about Deku's dad, which always is gonna irk me forever, this is probably the perfect ending for MHA. Deku faced so many challenges and overcame them all in the end with the help of his friends, including the loss of his quirk. Now he gets to teach at the UA and be a hero. The Hero Society as a whole is doing so much better. Everyone seems to be doing what makes them happy and they are fulfilled in their lives. And the one thing that we knew was missing for Deku and Ochako has been addressed, and they are now together in the end. Izu-Ocha confirmed, Izu-Ocha supremacy, game over baby! Congrats to Horikoshi and the entire MHA manga team for this new, greatly improved and much more satisfying ending. Congrats to the fans for sticking with the manga until the end. And if you're wondering what my take was on chapter 430 and what problems I identified that Hori managed to resolve in this epilogue, then check out my full analysis of chapter 430 right now, link on screen and in the description. Thanks again to Girls' Frontline 2 Exilium for sponsoring this video. Check it out, link in the description. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe. If there is a sequel announced for MHA, which is a highly possible thing, you will be the first to know if you subscribe to Anime Uproar.